Thank you all for joining us. We're really excited to get this kicked off. We know that year end is around the corner. I can't believe that we're saying that. It feels like it's only early August, but here we are. And so we really wanted to talk about a new product and solution that we're bringing to market that will allow for everybody to have an even better end of year. And so with that, before we jump right in, we'll go through some quick introductions. Many of you know who I am. I'm Maureen McNally. I am the Chief Digital Growth Officer here at More, working very closely with Linda. And with that, I can pass it over to you, Linda.
Hi, everybody. I'm Linda Williams, president of More THD. Over the course of a few years, I have partnered with nonprofits of all shapes and sizes, helping them deliver on their revenue growth goals. I'm a strategist at heart and a self-proclaimed data nerd, and I'm really excited to participate in this conversation today. And I will pass off to Jeremy.
Yep. Hi, everybody. Thanks for including me on this talk today. It's great to see many of you again and many of the names in the chat here. Jeremy Pittman, I'm the global director of our ISV and software development company team here in Microsoft Elevate. Now, a lot of people may go, wait a second, what is Microsoft Elevate? That is the new name for what was Microsoft Tech for Social Impact. And so just a few months ago, we did a pretty significant reorganization to better serve you all and the sector. And we are now made up of three primary teams under the Elevate umbrella. That is AI skilling, it is nonprofit, and it's our K through 12 and community colleges business. So that is where that name comes from, but it is a new name. And so just glad to be here. I'm here on the call because Microsoft really believes in More as a key partner to serve the sector mutually together. I specifically, me and my team, we run a portfolio of companies, much like a VC would run a portfolio. And it's about 25 companies, and More is right at the top of that list to serve the sector. These companies are run on Azure, built on Azure, and we come alongside them and support them. And really, a lot of people, I will get this question, why More? Why is Microsoft working with More? And I think this is really helpful to frame the conversation of why we're working with More. I have been working with them for the last year and for many years to come. I think the first part is, from the Microsoft side, is the platform that we can bring to them, right? So Azure is 70 different regions around the world to help nonprofits run securely and compliantly wherever their mission takes them. Trust by design, that is something we take great pride in at Microsoft, is your data is yours. It is your data. It is not Microsoft's data. And we offer a secure and compliant cloud that More can offer their services to. And then there's this, probably the two most worn out keys on your keyboard these days are A and I. It is changing a lot of things, including internally in Microsoft. And we're hyper focused on this AI era. And how do we bring the power of AI to nonprofits, communities, really people around the world that leads to flourishing all up. And so that's what we bring to this partnership. What we see in More is we really see a market-leading fundraising company. Hundreds of well-known, respected brands, and More chose to build their business and platform. And we love what we see from them. We see their SimioCloud data set. I am not a marketeer, but I see their data set and I know enough to know that they have an elite level of data that will rival any in the world, and really inform next best actions to find, convert, and retain supporters. And then finally, I'm seeing the leadership and vision from More that we at Microsoft want to partner with on them. Rapid changes in this AI era. And I think we have been doing a ton of work with the last 12 months, and I'm pretty sure their technology team is going to get sick of the Microsoft team in the next 12 months with the amount of co-engineering, workshops, product innovation, and a lot of those inputs for those workshops and co-engineering engagements. I hope we get some of that stuff on this call today. So we're super excited to be partnering with More to serve you all. We couldn't do it without them. And so just excited to be here, excited to be a part of the conversation and carry this forward. So I will now turn it back over to Maureen.
Thank you. So we're here to talk a little bit about a solution that we have brought to life. And one of the first things that I want to talk about is the challenge. And I know this is something that many nonprofits are facing, which is rising costs. We have unpredictability. We have limited access to a full set of data, lower returns. We also know that email inboxes are just completely inundated with messages. I know that I wake up every morning and open my inbox and it's just hundreds of new emails. And so I think the challenge is, how do you ensure that email is still a viable channel? How do you ensure that what you've invested into email continues to be a strong investment? And that when you're thinking about future investments, that they are the right place to invest your money. And so in thinking about all of that, we really tried to come up with a solution, which is on this next slide here, that allows for organizations to utilize AI modeling and data-driven precision and prediction to find the right email addresses that they should begin to email. And so the best way to think about it is if you have a list of 100,000 and let's say year end is around the corner and you want to increase that list from 100,000 to 120,000, you need to know where to find those 20,000 individuals. And our suite of tools for SimioCloud has an offering, which is called SimioCloud Email Acquisition, allowing for people to find those 20,000 email addresses or whatever the number might be. And because of all of the data that we have in SimioCloud, it is going to identify the right person from the start. And on the next slide here, we can talk a little bit about the results. So a little caveat is we tested with a single organization. It is a top 100 nonprofit. They've been investing in acquisition now for at least a solid 10 years across a variety of platforms, from Facebook to other co-ops to texting and beyond. And so they really wanted to try a version of the co-op that we are creating. And so we pulled something together just to allow for them to beta test, would email acquisition work for them? And the results were incredible. We compared our results to another product that is very similar. And in doing so, we saw a 221% increase in revenue, 194% increase in donations, and a 9% increase in higher average gift. All three strong metrics. Obviously, I would love for that average gift number to be a little bit larger, but I'll take it. But at the end of the day, we're really excited that overall, just with one individual client in the co-op, paired with all the data that exists in SimioCloud, we were already able to see a 221% increase in revenue compared to other acquisition sources. So the way that I think about it is as more organizations join the co-op, that number is just going to keep going up, which is really exciting. And so I touched on this a little bit. The benefits of the co-op really are probably just the increase in revenue. I think that's what we're all looking for, but certainly it goes beyond that. It's making sure that we are incorporating opens and clicks data, as much data really as possible, into all of the modeling. We all know as digital marketers that the more data that is included, the better the output. And so that's really what our job is here today, is to talk through what exactly that looks like. And so when we're thinking about the modeling that we're doing, we're thinking about the AI that we're using, it really is tied to the billion data points that we're able to incorporate into all those modeling, which allows for the output to be just like we saw on the prior slide with those results.
A little bit more about how the SimioCloud email acquisition solution works. It's designed to be a small lift for our nonprofit partners. There are two things on your plate, really. First, becoming a co-op member. Joining the co-op involves signing a SimioCloud co-op contract, which I understand sometimes can be a little tricky, but our legal team is super responsive and ready to answer any questions that your legal counsel asks. And second, enabling API access to your ECRM data. We have a team of technical subject matter experts, including data engineers and data security experts, who will work directly with your IT resources, answer their questions, and provide all the necessary documentation and guidance. And then we take it from there. Our data scientists build custom AI models analyzing huge amounts of email engagement data, donor demographics, and billions of donation transactions. With real-time access to activity across the co-op, we're continuously optimizing our models and sending you leads that have been active in email within the most recent 30 days. With leads in hand, you have the flexibility to activate in your ECRM platform, or we can assist you with email deployment services. Next slide, please. SimioCloud email acquisition is an excellent source of email prospects to drive revenue in this year-end fundraising season and beyond, of course, because it's powered by the robust SimioCloud co-op, billions of donation transactions, donor demographics, and email engagement activity. It's designed exclusively for mission-driven organizations that rely on long-term giving behaviors rather than one-time online actions. And SimioCloud email acquisition is built for scale. We have a secure technology environment that will satisfy your IT requirements, as well as a team of data engineers and data scientists that are facile with the latest AI and machine learning technology. So our models are constantly learning, optimizing, and delivering the best leads to drive revenue for your nonprofit. Next slide. We're excited to share some exclusive benefits for our founding partners, those nonprofits who join in the early stages. These benefits are designed to minimize your risk and drive impact as quickly as possible. 4 great benefits. First, discounted pricing on acquisition leads, and I'll speak to that more specifically in a minute. Free test leads during the launch phase. Importantly, that starts this year-end fundraising season. Lapsed donor reactivation. We'll flag who on your lapsed donor file is most likely to re-engage based on activity across the co-op. So that's more value at no cost since you own the name. And finally, our founding partners are invited to help guide product innovation and with input into future product enhancements. So you have a stake in the game. Our standard, simple to understand and budget for pricing is 50 cents a lead. Joining Simio Co-op with API access to your ECRM this year in 2025 means you're entitled to a 20% discount on email leads. At 40 cents a lead, that's a super competitive price compared to other acquisition solutions. And don't forget about those free test leads that during the launch phase. So that's about it from here. We'd like to open it up for questions, real time, or those that might have been dropping into the chat.
Yeah, and I'm seeing a lot of people dropping their city and state into the chat, so thank you all. And then Matthew, we see that your question is in here, and we'll get to that in 1 second. Just a reminder that if people can put questions into the Q&A, that would be super helpful. Then they're just, all recorded and captured for anybody who's watching this later. Matthew, I see your question is, outside of the modeling/QA, how does SimioCloud's email acquisition differ from traditional email acquisition using list brokers? Overall, when an organization joins, the biggest differentiator, I would say, which you hit on, is the modeling and the data. The wealth of data that we have is certainly well beyond what others have. But also, just to clarify, when an organization acquires, let's say, 10,000 email addresses, they are able to take those 10,000 email addresses and move them into their CRM and email them on an ongoing basis. And so that's one of the other differentiators from a list broker. And then I'm also seeing a question, have you tested how it compares to lead gen? And yes, we are looking at this compared to lead gen. We're looking at it compared to when we're looking at organizations who are acquiring email addresses from Facebook or from other social platforms or from other co-ops. We're really trying to ensure that we're taking as much data and as much learnings from across the board and incorporating it into what we're creating, and are really ensuring that we are monitoring results across all those platforms as well. I see some questions coming in through the Q&A. What best practices do you recommend for onboarding these names, and will more support us in the planning and execution? And I know that you've done some of this with one of your clients. I don't know if you want to jump in here.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we've done this with a couple clients who have a robust email fundraising program. I would say they send pretty high volume. I think some of the best practices would be to deploy these names quickly. So within a few days, hopefully, of getting these names, and of course, we can support you on that, I would deploy email communications to these names so that you can get them as soon as we have modeled for them, so that you have the most recent data, the most valuable folks that you can message to. Otherwise, if you sit on it for a little while, it's hard to tell how valuable they might be or if they'll retain that ROI that we might have modeled for. The other thing with a couple of these clients that we found is skipping the welcome stream. I know it's a little bit counterintuitive to some best practices, but in general, we have found that sending them fundraising appeals, the ones that have been really successful for you in the past, leads to faster positive return on that investment for you. And the other thing that is really important, though, is to make sure that we aren't sending to more than 10% of the list at a time, so that we aren't overwhelming the list or getting the IP addresses to crash. So we want to really be cognizant of how we are onboarding these names and how we are talking to them as well.
One other question here from Matthew. Are you able to apply standard suppression so you're not emailing donors already in your CRM? The simple answer there is yes. The slightly longer answer is we're going to utilize your API to really ingest all the data. It will refresh every single night. So even if you acquire an email address yesterday, and then you come to us and say, hey, I'd like to acquire 10,000 email addresses from email acquisition, we would already know that you just acquired a new email address yesterday and ensure that we don't give you that email address again. So the answer is absolutely yes, that's built in. And then I'm seeing, can you talk about why SimioCloud stands out compared with other similar tools/co-ops in the nonprofit space, like ScoutQuest, for example, and why we should choose SimioCloud versus those other similar competitors? Linda, do you want to jump in here? Do you want me to?
Yeah, sure. So there are a number of factors really that make the SimioCloud email acquisition solution stand out. First and foremost, as the wealth of data, and you've heard that spoken about many times over the course of the last 15 minutes. I think that another key differentiator is that we are optimizing for mission-driven giving behaviors, long-term sustainable revenue and actions. And then I think that the simple and attractive pricing strategy is another differentiator for this product.
Another question that I'm seeing here is, my organization only allows us to work with SOC 2 certified companies. Do you qualify? Linda, do you want to take this one as well?
The simple answer is yes, absolutely. We are SOC 2 Type 2 compliant.
I'm seeing some questions about the organization in the case study, as many of co-ops are fully anonymized, and so we can't offer the organization name, but I will be able to tell you that, like I said earlier, it is a large nonprofit, and so it's somebody who has invested heavily into email acquisition in the past, and we are still able to really find great email addresses for them to acquire here. Another one is, when would we use this versus lead gen versus ads? Advad, do you want to take this one as well?
Yeah, I think it's definitely worth testing. I would say if you want a little bit more predictable ROI, donor modeled leads, it will be effective for you to use our co-op for sure for email acquisition. I think it's a very efficient way to get really high quality names very quickly, especially before Giving Tuesday and end of year. That said, of course, you can also use those names potentially to suppress any lead gen targeting that you're doing so that you're also not paying for these names twice, right? So that way you can really get original names in your social lead gen ads, for example, or wherever else you're investing to get leads for email. And you're not double dipping with what you're already buying here. So I think it's probably great to have a two-pronged approach.
Another question is, if your client or if the organization is already a member of the SimioCloud co-op, so the larger SimioCloud, and already has a lapsed donor reactivation model, is this different, or is this a bigger advantage to current non-participants? Linda, do you want to take this one? Do you want me to?
So two-part question. Is the question, is it a big, if you're not part of the co-op, bigger advantage? I would say that because of the ECRM, the API connection to ECRM data, that the email acquisition solution is a more robust data set specifically designed for identifying highest quality email prospects. I think whether you're an existing co-op member and adding the API connection to your ECRM or new to Simio, I think the benefits and the advantages are the same.
Yeah, and I also
Leah,
see,
oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I also see another question here that's very similar is, if a fundraiser is already part of the co-op, are they automatically able to utilize its function? And just to note that it's just an addendum to the current contract for Simio. Another question, these are all really good questions, so thank you everybody for sending them in. Thoughts on organizations who are membership organizations using this for acquisition? Advad, do you want to take that one?
I think that's a great question, and absolutely, why not? We have a huge, robust, vast array of data here. And so that includes membership organizations as well. We have information on donors across the United States for various missions. I think that's what really makes this product different potentially from some of the other options out in the market, is that we're not just leaning towards one type of mission or even left or right politically. We're really encompassing in our data all types of potential donors. So I think it would be highly valuable for a membership organization as well.
Another,
I was just going to acknowledge another question in the Q&A from Heather. Do we need to adjust our donor opt-in language to participate? Maureen, why don't you grab that one?
I'm not an attorney, so don't hold me to this, but the answer is that you do need to ensure that your privacy policy does align with the addendum. And so typically the answer is yes, there might need to be a small adjustment, but it really isn't a big lift. So it's been relatively easy for organizations that do need to make those changes. And then I also saw a question around implementation timeline. What does an implementation timeline look like? How early do we need to start the process to ensure we're ready to roll for Giving Tuesday / end of year campaigns? Great question. I hate to answer the question with a non-answer, but it really depends on your legal team. And so once we send over that addendum and the second we get it back, we can begin to ingest the data and then start the modeling. I have worked at a nonprofit. I know how arduous a legal team over on that end can be. So if you can help us, we will help you as far as getting that pushed through. And once that happens, I would say around 2 weeks for us to be able to ingest and deliver email addresses. I'm also seeing one around, is an API connection a requirement? That sounds like a large lift. How will this be done? The answer is yes, and it actually is the opposite of a large lift. Once you grant us access, I'm sure that our tech team hates that I say this, but everything just runs automatically then. So it really allows for us to do things in a really streamlined manner. The data refreshes every single night, which ensures that we have fresh data that we're using for everybody's models. So it really isn't a big lift at all.
And there's part of the process is certainly meeting with your IT team or whatever resources make sense for your organization. And there's a fully vetted and documented onboarding process. And so we've done everything that we can to make it as light a lift for your team as we can.
Another question here is, in the case study example, what was their average response rate? I don't happen to have that I'm not sure if you have that number top of mind. If not, we can certainly include it in a recap that we send around. But I knew that looking at the KPIs across the comparison, there wasn't anything that stood out as a massive red flag. So I don't think it was dramatically harmed in any way. Another one here, are there any limits on how many times I can email a newly acquired email address? Linda, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. You have unlimited use for 90 days and then really consistent with email deliverability best practices. After 90 days, we ask you to suppress the names, the email addresses that have not opened, clicked, or donated. That really protects your sender reputation and keeps co-op names from oversaturation, which is an important benefit for all co-op members.
Another one is, will you include first names in the file? So what we're going to be doing is delivering a file that will have email address, first, last, and zip code. And the first, last, and zip code is given where it's available. So if we have that information, we will include it. And if not, then it won't be included. I see another question here of what kind of content should we send them, and will you assist with drafting the email copy? Adva, I know that you touched on that a little bit. Do you want to expand on that a bit more?
Of course, sure. So the best practice is really sending them what works in general for soliciting donations. So appeals that would include, for example, match offers, potentially celebrity endorsements, urgent appeals. We can really help you figure out what would be best for your mission, for your organization, and also just based on what your audiences are used to as far as volume of the email, et cetera. So we can help you craft that if you need support there.
I see one more here. Is email acquisition open to nonprofits only? Linda, do you want to take this?
Yes.
Perfect. Those are all the questions that I see. If I'm missing any, Linda, Adva, feel free to flag them. I think I've gotten through all of, oh, go ahead.
I see one more. Are the email addresses mostly personal or business? And that would be personal email addresses, as they are representative of the profit participants' donor files. Email files.
And I think that then wraps us up and that addresses all of the questions. Like I said at the top, we are going to send around the recording and we'll also include all of our email addresses. So if there are any other questions that come to mind, feel free to reach out to Linda, Adva, myself, and we are happy to address those questions and ensure that we will have another one of these webinars, I'm sure, in the near future, where we can talk about those questions and any remaining thoughts that you all have. And with that, thank you all for joining us and happy Tuesday.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.